Welcome everybody, this is Greg with Laser Bear Industries here to show how to install the Saturn Finrir mount for the 21-pin Saturn Finrir. This install is pretty much identical for the 20-pin and the Phoebe and Ray as well. So I'll kind of highlight how those would install in this video. But this video will specifically encompass the 21-pin version of the Finrir. So I went ahead and removed all the screws ahead of time for this, just to make things go a little bit smoother. That will be something you would have to do before you would get to this point in the install. You also need to remove your disk drive, unplug the ribbon cable from it, unplug the power cable from it. You can set your disk drive off to the side. If your disk drive is good, I would suggest putting it into a box and saving it in the event that you ever want to reuse it. So my mount does require the removal of these 4 posts. The reasoning behind this is because you're putting stress on the mount kit every time you push on the SD card. There's a chance that eventually these will break and you will never be able to replace these, which I suppose you could replace them with like a 3D printed part, but I didn't want to risk ruining a piece of the console in the design. So first let's go over the mount and the parts of the mount. Your kit will come with this mount piece, which is comprised of an upper section, which has the drive cover in it, and a lower section, which attaches to the Saturn console itself. We send them together with the screws already through them, so you'll have to take your screws out once you get the mount. So my suggestion is the first thing to do is just take all 4 of these screws out that cover the top. Actually get them all the way out. And you can set the whole top section aside because we won't need it until a little bit down the road. And on the bottom, we also include 4 screws for mounting to the Saturn. So you want to pull those out. These are just little M2 by 6mm screws. You can set those aside because you will need them here shortly. Now, if your Saturn is a Model 1 with the earlier flimsy metal base in it, we do include these feet with the kit that you would install to the bottom of this bracket, and then these will screw into where the original feet are removed from that version of the Saturn, making it pretty much a universal kit so it can go in all versions of the Saturn. So that's what these feet are for. If you don't need them, you can toss them, you can hold on to them if you ever need them. So that is that part. The only other part to mention, the only other piece of note is this bracket for installing the 21-pin into the mount. So this bracket just sits over the pegs just like so. And then when you install your 20-pin Finrir, it sits over and it gets centered by 2 little pegs. One of them snapped off on this. This is an early sample, so I just was going to use it for the demonstration on the video. So just a quick and easy little bracket that will hold this version of the Finrir in place. The 20-pin version of the Finrir installs like so. So we'll go ahead and set that aside along with our Fenrir, just to keep stuff out of the way. Bring back our Saturn. So the next step you're going to do is pull the metal housing out of the shell. After you've got all your screws removed and everything, feed your cables all the way through. We're going to set it aside for just a moment because we're going to prep our board for our Finrir, which is as simple as pulling this off and putting the new included ribbon in its place. Just push it right down. And then we're going to set our Saturn to the side and bring our metal board back out. And what we're going to do is pull off all 4 of these mounting posts. So the easiest way I find to do that is just take all 4 screws out first, and then we'll come back with a pair of pliers and do just a bit of finagling to get the post removed. Nah, that one popped off on its own. Which some of them will. They'll come out. So yeah, you can just tilt on them just a bit and they will pop right off. So now that that is ready, we're going to mount our base onto the metal housing. So the front of the Saturn gets this portion here. That just sits right over the holes on all 4 of these spots. Now there is another version of the Saturn. This is a more recent Saturn Model 2, so it does not have a separated controller port. That does push this front edge back a little bit, but this will clear where that gets pushed back to. So that shouldn't be an issue at all. So if we flip it over, just line our screw hole up, start with our first screw, get her going, and then tighten that screw all the way down just to kind of give yourself something to work with. Then I always just line up the far corner one. Doesn't really matter which screw hole you go with next, but that's just my preference. And you'll just go through and put all 4 of these in. Snug them up. Remember, it's a 3D printed part, so it is pretty easy to strip out screw holes, which is something we do want to avoid. Your goal is not to get it so tight that it will never come loose. You just want it so that it doesn't move around. So now that we've got that mounted in, it's time to bring our Saturn back out to the table. Feed our cable through. Feed our power cable through. Set the metal bracket down. Back into place where it goes. We're going to take our Finrir and the little bracket for it. Set the little bracket down. Go ahead and pop out the little retaining tab for the flat flux cable. Seat it in place. And then go ahead and plug your power cord in. And we're going to set it down on top of the mount. Just like so. Now, we're going to take our top piece with the SD extension. Go ahead and plug our SD extension in. just like so. Flip it back over. You want the extensions cable to kind of bow in just a bit, just to keep it out of the way while you are installing the rest of the mount. Line everything up. You should be able to kind of hand thread these screws just a hair, just so that it holds it in while you're doing the work. I seem to have lost them. There they are. Fell into my system while I flipped it backwards. Just start your screws up. Then once everything's started, you can go ahead and run your screws in. And again, you just want to snug it. You don't need it to be super tight by any means. And there you have it. The mount is secured in place. There is just a little bit of play that if for some reason it doesn't quite line up, what you do is you can come back in, loosen your screws just a hair, just enough so that the mount can be kind of manipulated. There's just a little bit of play in it so that you can kind of align stuff a little bit better. We're going to take our lid, we're going to throw it on, make sure everything gets lined up. Looks like we're just a hair off, but I think it's a pretty good fit overall. And like I said, you can just kind of loosen things up just a hair so you can move these screws around. I'll give that a go. I'm just pushing it back just a bit because that's where I was binding when I put the top on. Alright, and there we have a newly installed Finrir SD card mount, giving you easy access to installing SD cards whenever you need to. I see the kits now come with these nice, cool stickers. Don't know what I'll put it on, but very cool. Alright, thank you for checking out the latest in the SD card mount lineup at Laser Bear Industries. As always, if you have questions, comments, concerns, you can reach out to us on Twitter or through our email. I want to thank everybody for watching this video install guide on how to install the Finrir SD card mount.